Dear students, hello and welcome. I welcome you to the online course, that is Psychology of Individual Differences, and today we will be talking about the brainstorming technique of creativity. And after having this lecture, you will be able to know about creativity, brainstorming technique, rules of brainstorming, steps involved in the process of brainstorming, and educational implications of this technique of brainstorming. Dear students, first let us understand what creativity is. Creativity refers to the ability to make or bring into existence something new. It may be a new solution to a problem or in the form of a new and useful artistic object. In fact, the products of creative thought, sometimes referred to as divergent thought, are usually considered to have both originality and appropriateness, or you may call it as usefulness. In his book Human Motivation, Robert E. Franken writes, creativity is defined as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. So, in order to be creative, we need to be able to view things in new ways or from a different perspective. We need to be able to generate new possibilities or new alternatives. George Keller writes, creativity consists largely of rearranging what we know in order to find out what we do not know. So, the process results in producing or bringing about something partly or wholly new. Creativity has been studied from numerous perspectives, including psychology, social psychology, psychometrics, artificial intelligence, economics, education, and business, etc. Creativity, as a matter of fact, has been attributed variously to divine intervention or spiritual inspiration. Cognitive processes, the social environment, personality traits, and chance. It has been sometimes associated with genius, mental illness, or humor. Although it has been popularly associated with art and literature, it is also an essential part of innovation and invention. Very much important in professions like business, economics, architecture, industrial design, science, engineering, and education. There are people who say that it is a trait we are born with, and others say that it can be taught with the application of simple techniques. According to the American psychologist J.P. Guilford, like most behavior, creative activity probably represents to some extent many learned skills. Another pioneer creative psychologist E.P. Torrance said, perhaps the most promising area in unfolding creativity is that of experimentation with teaching procedures, which will stimulate students to think independently, to test their ideas and to communicate them to others. Dear students, now let us understand the nature of brainstorming creative technique. The creative technique brainstorming was authored by the American advertising executive Fackney Alex Osborne. The term brainstorming was popularized by him in his book Applied Imagination, Principles and Procedures of Creative Thinking in 1953. According to Osborne, brainstorming is a group activity technique by which efforts are made to find a conclusion for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas spontaneously contributed by its members. It is described as a spontaneous group discussion to provide ideas and ways of solving problems. In other words, brainstorming is described as a process by which a group of people meet to find a solution to a specific problem by collecting the ideas spontaneously identified by its members. Here, people are able to think more freely and without inhibitions, and these suggest as many spontaneous new ideas as possible. All the ideas are noted down without criticism, and it is after the brainstorming session that the ideas are evaluated. Terming it differently, each participant in a brainstorming session presents the ideas which come to his mind, and no member of the group is allowed any criticism on the idea put forward by another member. The underlying objective here is that of freeing a person from the usual inhibitions that operate to block his or her creative process. In fact, brainstorming is the most familiar strategy for generating ideas. It is based on Alex Osborne's principle of deferred judgment, which refers to not evaluating any ideas until a number of them have been produced. In his opinion, to evaluate ideas may hinder their production. As per this principle, generating many ideas and then applying evaluation criteria at the end is more productive than judging each idea as it is produced. The provision of evaluation is there. The intent is not to eliminate evaluation but simply to delay it. As a matter of fact, the process of brainstorming strives for a non-judgmental, supportive atmosphere in which idea generation can flourish. It is a useful technique used to spark creativity and generate ideas. Brainstorming rules. Students, Alex Osborne popularized this strategy through his well-known writing, that is Applied Imagination. In his opinion, this strategy can be used with a group to explore ideas related to the solution of a problem without passing any judgment. In fact, he wanted a way to give people the freedom to think outside of the box without fear of criticism. He established 4 rules of effective brainstorming, which include: first, it is focus on quantity; second, withhold criticism, welcome unusual ideas; and the fourth one, that is combine and improve ideas. The objective underlying these rules was to foster a collaborative environment that promoted creative and unusual ideas. by enabling people to think in new and unique ways. Hence, the rules of brainstorming have been established with the purpose to reduce social inhibitions among group members, stimulate idea generation, increase overall creativity of the group. Here we provide the detailed account of these established rules. First, focus on quantity. Dear students, the assumption behind this rule is that the greater the number of ideas generated, the bigger the chance of producing a radical and effective solution. In fact, this rule is a way of enhancing divergent production. Instead of trying to think of one grand idea, participants need to work toward quantity to come up with as many ideas as they can. This method, in fact, gives the participants more options to choose from and inspires them to think of more new ideas. It is quite true that more the ideas are generated, the higher will be the probability of hitting upon some brilliant and useful ones. So, it is recommended that the participants must express ideas whatever come to their mind and readily and spontaneously. It is true that not every idea is going to be great, but it is equally true that one bad idea may lead to several good ones. The famous maxim, quantity breeds quality, is very appropriate here. Next, it is withhold criticism. The idea of withholding criticism refers to deferring evaluation during the idea production phase. So, in brainstorming, criticism of ideas generated should be put on hold and participants should focus on extending or adding to ideas, reserving criticism for a later critical stage of the process. In brainstorming sessions, participants need to withhold adverse judgment of ideas put forward by other members of the group. It is only on the basis of suspending judgment that participants will feel free to generate unusual ideas. It is obvious that when people no longer fear criticism, they are more likely to share more ideas, even silly and ridiculous ideas. In fact, these unusual ideas are key to brainstorming and hence need to be encouraged. Third one, it is welcome unusual ideas. There is no denying the fact that unique, unusual and even eccentric ideas can spark innovative solutions. So, the participants must cheerfully accept even wild, silly and crazy ideas put forward by other members. A wild, silly and crazy or fantastic idea may not be a practical idea, but still then it serves the important function of going off the beaten track, that is thinking divergently instead of conventional mode of thinking. Sometimes it may hit upon other ideas that might not only be novel but also appropriate and useful. So, encouraging and welcoming the freewheeling of ideas is very essential in brainstorming. In the words of Fackney Alex Osborne, it is easier to tone down a wild idea than to think up a new one. Therefore, welcoming unconventionality to a brainstorm session promotes an open space for idea generation and creativity. Then there is the fourth one, that is combine and improve ideas. Participants in brainstorming sessions need to work on combining and improving each other's suggestions and ideas. In addition to contributing their own ideas, the participants should suggest how ideas of others can be turned into better ideas, or how different ideas can be combined together into new possible combinations to form new ideas. Improving on the ideas shared will help participants find the best solution to the problem. So, the participants need to evaluate each idea to determine which are feasible, innovative and best suited to accomplish the goal or solve the problem. Dear students, now let us understand the steps involved in brainstorming technique. Students, for effective brainstorming sessions, we need to follow certain well-ordered sequential steps. Such steps are 5 in number, which include: first, it is sensing the problem and challenge. Second is called as fact finding. The third one, that is group discussion, then evaluation of ideas. Fifth, it is planning for implementation. Students, now the first step, that is sensing the problem and challenge. Brainstorming session begins with a specific problem for which solution is to be sought. In other words, it is to determine a problem question that the brainstorming session will address. The participants of the brainstorming session must know exactly the problem that needs an appropriate solution. The suggested problem should be specific, familiar and simple. The problem should be clear enough to prompt participants to think of solutions. In fact, it is specified till it becomes a perfectly definite question, a target to attack. In fact, a well-stated problem and carefully planned strategies can lead to meaningful idea generation and idea building. John Davy termed it beautifully: a problem well stated is half solved. Second step, it is fact finding. After introducing the problem, relevant information about it is searched out from all the possible sources. In fact, selective relevant facts are considered to build a framework to solve the problem selected. This step involves pooling of the relevant information. The third step, that is group discussion. After defining the problem accurately, it is being discussed among the group members. It is the actual idea production stage where a large number of alternate solutions are produced by the participants. It is very essential to create a conducive climate in the group by removing various internal and external blocks to creative functioning like habit, conventions, conformity and by deferring judgment. A creative atmosphere with the psychological safety and freedom must prevail in the session. Group members are encouraged to provide a large alternative solutions for the problem. Wild, silly and crazy ideas are accepted for discussion, and in this way the creative behavior of the participants is reinforced and thus psychological safety in the brainstorming session is provided. In order to minimize the interference of many mental blocks in creative thinking, Alex Osborne has suggested some rules to be followed in the brainstorming sessions, which include: first, it is criticism is ruled out. Second, freewheeling is welcomed. then quantity is wanted and combination and improvement of ideas is sought. Students, now fourth step, that is evaluation of ideas. Evaluation of ideas is to choose which ideas to execute. It is in this stage that one or more best solutions are selected from the many suggested during the ideation stage. The group develops evaluation criteria, discusses the whole session and scrutinizes each idea. Then they submit the best one for implementation. It is the application of suitable criteria that enables the group to select its most promising idea. Sometimes more than one alternate solutions are required to be selected for trying them out to solve the specific problem. The next stage, that is planning for implementation. After all the solutions and ideas received from the members are discussed in a democratic atmosphere, the most appropriate, valuable and promising idea or ideas are accepted for the solution of the identified problem. Dear students, now let us understand the educational implications of brainstorming technique of creativity. Students, brainstorming as a technique of creativity facilitates the development of divergent thinking abilities in human beings. Educationists, teachers and students can use this technique very successfully to find out the best solutions to the problems that are faced by the existing system of education. Brainstorming is a technique which emphasizes the development of divergent thinking among the learners. This technique consists of generating ideas in response to some problem in a group. Unusual ideas are welcomed and group members are encouraged to provide a large alternative solutions for the identified problems. Here students or learners are encouraged to come up with whatever ideas occur to them, and diverse ideas are noted down or recorded without any criticism. No criticism is allowed during the brainstorming session, and the ideas are evaluated after the session is complete. The teacher has to create a non-judgmental, supportive atmosphere in which idea generation can flourish. Hence, in this way, the teacher provides freedom to the pupils and avails the chance to observe the fluency, flexibility and originality in pupils. As a matter of fact, this technique is of a great help to the teacher in developing problem-solving attitude among pupils and also in stimulating and enriching their imaginative and creative powers. Role of the teacher is of a facilitator who promotes and probes by asking questions and hence encourages students to think critically and creatively. In this way, students become active and independent inquirers and discoverers of the knowledge instead of remaining passive partners in the teaching learning process. It provides them opportunity to think, reason, analyze and synthesize, and thus proves helpful in development of higher cognitive abilities among the students. In fact, the main advantage of this strategy is to help students in the development of their creative and constructive abilities. The originality and novelty of the ideas, the varied responses marked with divergent thinking, The removal of fear being ridiculed or criticized, in fact, encourages and inspires the students for developing their creative imagination and problem solving abilities. Since brainstorming provides a free and open environment that encourages everyone to participate and contribute, it supports learning in a relaxed manner environment. Here, students are able to collaborate in a relaxed, informal learning environment. This strategy is especially useful for the development of higher cognitive abilities like reflective thinking, creative imagination, and problem solving. It increases self-confidence and sense of resourcefulness. Needless to say that brainstorming sessions prove as useful strategies to encourage genuine collaboration and interaction in the classroom. It is the appropriate technique to use for coming together as a team and can help to generate exciting, novel, unique, and useful ideas and solutions. It helps teams generate a large number of ideas quickly, which can be refined, developed, and merged to create the ideal solution. Brainstorming helps in developing much needed skills, which include communication skills, empathy, emotional intelligence, teamwork skills, and leadership skills. As a matter of fact, brainstorming can be an extremely effective tool not only for problem solving but for improving upon existing ideas and boosting the learner's critical thinking. Besides solving academic problems or addressing specific course related issues and benefiting teaching learning process, it can be successfully used in finding causes and providing preventive measures in regard to indiscipline, delinquency, truancy, dropout tendency of pupils, student unrest, and copying in the examination. Dear students, to sum up, we can say that brainstorming has been defined as a strategy of exploring possible solutions to identified problems. It has been described as a technique of exploring possible solutions to problems. It refers to a group creative technique by which efforts are made to find a solution for a specific problem by gathering a list of ideas spontaneously contributed by its members. The problem selected for brainstorming is simple, specific, and easily understandable to the group. It is a group participation method of problem solving where participants in the session are encouraged to contribute suggestions and new ideas. In order to obtain more and more novel ideas from the participants, every attempt is made during brainstorming to create free, friendly, informal, non-threatening and non-evaluative climate to reduce inhibitions and restrictiveness on the part of group members. Several of these ideas serve as fresh and innovative answers to identified issues. Brainstorming, in fact, helps us to increase the participants' or learners' creativity and openness for problem solving. Dear students, it was all for today. I hope you might have learned a lot and enjoyed the session. Thanks.